Over the past decade of Hearthstone, there have been many impressive accomplishments by players and milestones reached in the game's history. In this video, I'm diving into the stories behind some of Hearthstone's most important firsts. Starting with the first person to ever finish Rank 1 Legend on the America's Ladder was I'm a Murgle, which is a very fitting name, with two versions of Hyped, Admirable, and some other names such as Firebat not so far behind. For Europe, the first person to finish Rank 1 Legend was Neria, followed closely by Life Coach and Kalento. Notably for the first season, Kalento finished 3rd on Europe and 23 on Americas. If you go back and look at these, you'll notice a couple of people managed to get pretty high on both servers the first time they had the chance. As for the Asia servers, Kiamato, Tak Vaders, and Dennis were the top 3 finishers. Some names you may recognize such as Zixo and Kranich not so far behind. This is all the way back as a result of the finish April of 2014, Hearthstone's ranked play season number 1. Up next, we have Hearthstone's first broken deck, which is a deck that these Rank 1 finishers may have been playing. In August 16th, 2013, the first closed beta testing games were played, starting in the Americas region. And then 3 weeks later, on September 4th in the Europe region. Right off the bat, one class stood above the others, Rogue. During the first weeks of the beta, believe it or not, the card everyone complained about was Defias Ring Leader. When it was coined on turn 1, it was almost an unrecoverable tempo advantage. Most of the decks at the time that included him also consisted of spells such as Backstab, Shiv, Sap, and Eviscerate, which, together with Gadget Zan Auctioneer, gave birth to the first meta-breaking deck, Miracle Rogue. While this is a deck that a lot of you probably experienced or have heard of or seen in some ways, some notable inclusions from this time that weren't in the decks later were cards such as Mana Addict or Head Crack. As with any of the categories in this video, you can't talk about an accomplishment or a milestone or any other sort of first without having some sort of source or proof for it. And so this one I found particularly interesting, Hearthstone's first 12-win arena run. With the caveat, shared, posted somewhere for the world to see. I'm sure you did it 0.25 seconds after the patch came out. You didn't post it now, did you? However, Entomophobe did. December 10th, 2013, they posted a video taken on their phone of the screen, which is about as wholesome as old internet gets, showing off the, in their words, prizes for a 12-win arena one as Druid, and it's meant to showcase the prize aspect of the new 12-win update. Because back in December of 2013, which is coming up on nearly 12 years ago, Arena was changed to what we largely think of it today. And they were the first person to post proof of a 12-win run in Arena, which is super interesting. I wonder if they know. Following Miracle Rogue, we had our first introduction of new cards into Hearthstone. The Curse of Naxxramas was Hearthstone's first adventure, and it released on July 22nd, 2014. Containing a total of 30 collectible cards, such as some of the true favorite OGs, Zombie Chow, Undertaker, Mad Scientist, Lotheb, Sludge Belcher, and a whole lot more. Within that same vein, the first expansion Hearthstone ever saw was Goblins vs. Gnomes. This at the time was a massive patch that introduced a ton of new life into the game. This isn't like any expansion like we see today. This was the first one. So if all you have is the original set of cards and one adventure, when you add 123 collectible cards into the game all at once, the impact is extremely significant because the amount of total cards being added to the total amount of cards in the game is a fairly high percentage. And all these subsequent expansions following Goblins vs. Gnomes would, with those same percentages, be subsequently less and less impactful, at least until they introduced the first format, or really 2 formats, into Hearthstone, Standard and Wild. We're not going to get into which one they added and which one existed and all that, it doesn't matter. With the introduction of 2 separate formats, then they started rotating cards out of Standard, and now when you add new stuff in, it's all kind of the same. There are times where there's more cards than others, but it's generally fairly standardized. With the introduction of the Standard and Wild split we mentioned earlier, they also had Ranked now for Wild, and as a result, they would have leaderboards. However, because there was no competitive incentive to the mode, from April 2016 all the way to the end of that year, they never reported who finished Rank 1 any of those months, because there was no reason to, I guess. Apparently people didn't ask enough or something, because I feel like people would care if they just did that today. But anyway, starting in January of 2017, however, they did start reporting wild finishes. Whether this is a direct correlation, I don't know, but it was the first month of the wild open relevance to your spot finish on ladder. So with that said, this is the first wild leaderboard that they posted, but it's not technically the first person to ever finish rank 1 in wild. That probably would have happened April 2016. Even though the patch for wild came out the 26th of that month, I bet you there was someone out there who in just 5 days climbed all the way to the top of the legend ladder in wild, but we don't know that. So technically the first person to finish rank 1 on the wild leaderboards for the Asian server would be Maru, followed closely by Hunting Guard and the Arcana. For the America server, we have Fire Nova, followed by DenCH3Zs and Lunk. And for the Europe region, we have Zejla. Another big milestone in Hearthstone history that many of you may have experienced and a lot of you probably didn't is Hearthstone's Ranked Play Season 1, Pandemonium. Announced all the way back March 28th, 2014. The first ranked season, Pandemonium, would begin for April. Now that Hearthstone has officially launched for the PC, the cards are on the table for you to become one of the world's most legendary Hearthstone players. Battle your favorite heroes of Warcraft on the ranked play ladder to earn a beautiful Pandaria themed card back that will only be available during the month of April. That is until you could buy it, of course, for gold in the game at any point. You could do it now even if you wanted to. To obtain this card back at the time, you had to reach rank 20 on the ranked ladder, and they also announced that going forward, every season would have an accompanying card back that they would earn by doing so. But if rank 20 wasn't enough of a challenge, you could also become a Hearthstone legend and get the legend card back by achieving the legend ranked in ranked play. This is one of those posts that you just look back on so fondly or strangely, because to us, at least me personally, at this point, I don't give a single care in the world about a new season and a new card back. It's just kind of like something I'm used to happening over the last decade. But this was the first time that ever happened. And for a while, this card back, as a result, was a pretty rare and elusive and cool card back to have to signal to others that you were there from the very beginning. And I think it's a shame that you can now buy it with gold, as that is entirely lost forever. Another big thing they announced this patch that we're all so used to now but wasn't yet in the game is that they announced golden heroes and golden hero powers earned for achieving 500 ranked wins with a hero. Alongside the gold border on your hero and hero power, you also had the art of your hero power animated. Still to this day, one of my favorite aesthetic upgrades in Hearthstone. Just a cool animated hero power with a gold border on the hero power and the hero. Honestly, to me, beats just about any skin in the game. Just having a default skin golden hero power, it's just chef's kiss to me. But maybe that's the nostalgia speaking. But wait, there's more. They also announced 2 balance changes, which were actually the first balance changes ever introduced to Hearthstone outside of the alpha, which doesn't really count because at that point they're just like moving things around on paper. They're not, none of it is real and live and players aren't experiencing it. So while this first is a tie, the first card nerfed would be Tinkmaster Overspark and Nat Pagle. Tinkmaster Overspark went from a 2/2 to a 3/3, but instead of transforming a minion, you instead transformed another random minion. And Nat Pagle went from being relevant to irrelevant as it started to draw at the start of your turn instead of the end. But hey, it was a very, very different time back then. Enough about games, let's talk about a player. In August 2014, competitive Hearthstone player Ryan Reels Masterson was hired by Blizzard in order to help with the balancing of the game. As a result, this makes him the first former player now hired to be a developer, where many soon would thankfully follow. With the acceptance of the position, Reels said, "This is a truly exciting opportunity for me, and to rephrase the words of someone I have long admired who once entered a similar position, I hope my association with the continuing development of Hearthstone will serve to comfort fellow ladder grinders, competitors, and players at large that, in quotes, one of us is behind the scenes looking out for the interests of the player." Much like Reels, a fellow competitor Firebat was the first person to compete and win a Hearthstone World Championship. Firebat would go on to compete in Hearthstone for roughly 6 years, as well as making streamed and YouTube content, before eventually getting relegated from the then Hearthstone Grandmasters esports format and retiring and leaving the internet altogether. No drama, no big scandal, just faded out into a normal, real-world job whatever that may be. Back to leaderboards, in 2017 they actually for the first time released arena leaderboards. The way arena leaderboards worked was that they would celebrate the top 100 in every region based on how well their average run was if they played a minimum of 30. So if you played a minimum of 30 runs, whatever your average wins were would be your score on the leaderboard. So if you played 30 runs and you won every game, you'd have 12 average wins and you'd be the number one on the leaderboard. The first month on the Americas region, the first overall player on the leaderboard was Crip. Yes, that Criparian, the creator that we've all known and loved over the last decade of Hearthstone. For the European region, it was 12 wins with an incredibly impressive score of 9.32 average wins. To put that into perspective, Crip won the Americas server with a score of 7.78. So 9.32 is just considerably ahead of that. As for the Asian server, they have the lowest first score, Magi, with a score of 7.26, taking home the first slot at number one on the arena leaderboards. In the preparation for this video, I read a lot of old Hearthstone blog posts, which begs the question, what was the first Hearthstone blog news post ever? Well, as of posting this video, it will be essentially exactly 12 years ago, happening on August 16th, 2013. If you were watching on that day or later, it has been over 12 years since this Hearthstone blog post was posted. It is titled Hearthstone TM Closed Beta Test Begins. It is an announcement that there will be a closed beta test for Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft, a title it no longer holds, and it specifically is starting with the Americas region. They'll be inviting a range of duelers from our opt-in pool along with folks from press and fan sites to try their hand at Hearthstone and let us know what they think. There's no NDA during the beta, and we'd love to hear all your epic victories, watch your live streamed matches, and see screenshots and videos sharing your experiences. How do you opt in? You make an account, you do some things, you send emails out, whatever it may be, you get an email back, you get lucky. There were actually 1 million people invited to the beta. I don't know how many of them accepted and actually made an account and played, but that is a wildly high number. This last one we have to take with a bit of a grain of salt, as it is an unofficial source, but Duels, a mode that came and went and has been removed from everything, had unofficial Firestone leaderboards using an MMR system. The Reddit post and obviously all of this features were written by the Firestone developers, so it's not official. It does, however, provide the first ever top 10 list of globally performing players for the Duels mode. The first player, QM23KU39T followed by Moxton Hidden Squid. Pretty interesting to see the players who were excelling at Duels all the way back nearly 5 years ago. Hearthstone's a wonderful game despite its flaws, and it's cool to look back on all of the fun things that people did or that the game did for the first time. It's really easy these days to just be like, oh, another expansion, or oh, another thing, because it's such a well-oiled machine now, which I get saying that's kind of funny, but a lot of the things that they do are very automated or just the same all the time, and that's just kind of how they're doing it. Back then, it was the Wild West. They did things differently, and, well, they did things for the first time. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. What was your favorite Hearthstone first? Whether it be a milestone in the game or a player accomplishment, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Check out this video where I talk about cards. Can you believe that? I talked about cards. Hey.